Welcome to Shop Talk by Elevated Stylist with your hosts Sonia and Jody. We're here to bring you open and honest conversations, education, tools, and opportunities to learn and grow. Shop Talk is the junction of hair, business, and wellness, where we literally talk shop, featuring guests, coaches, experts, and thought leaders in the hair industry. Be sure to join us for new weekly episodes. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shop Talk. We're super excited to be talking about what we're going to talk about today. And this month, Jody and I have decided to dedicate the podcast to something we call the Salon Blueprint. I'm sure you guys have seen some stuff on social media and you've kind of seen what we've been doing with the Salon Blueprint. And we're really excited to dedicate this next month to what the teachings of the Salon Blueprint are.
Yeah, so we came up with the Salon Blueprint a couple of years ago because we really seen a rise in people going out on their own, the salon suites. So we really wanted to help others create almost like a roadmap for opening a successful or running a successful salon. Because, when Sonia and I first opened our salon, we were very young. We had no clue how to do any of the things other than hair. We really jumped in with both feet and had no clue what we were in store for. So we went through 5 years of a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of fails, a lot of time wasted, money wasted. And, we came to a roadblock where, we were ready to quit our business. We were ready to honestly give up our salon because we were super burnt out. We were super stressed out because we were just literally running around in circles and having no clue how to run a goddamn business. And so we really wanted to just actually hire people to teach us how to do it. So we invested in ourselves, we invested in our business, and we hired business coaches, life coaches, mentors, and spent a buttload of money on just learning the ins and outs of marketing and management and leadership and finances. Like, it was an intense couple of years of just learning and taking it all in. And we know that a lot of people are opening salons with little to no knowledge as well. So we really wanted to create a roadmap that helped people kind of go step by step on all of the things that we learned from our mentors.
Yeah, and one of the most important things which we're going to talk about in this first episode of the dedication to the Blueprint is self-discovery. Self-discovery is the most important thing. It is literally the foundation to crafting a salon, period. Without knowing yourself, knowing the things that you want, knowing how you are, who you are, what you need to do, what you need to learn, these things will either help you push forward or they'll hold you back. And self-discovery was one of the things that we actually didn't even know anything about. We were like, self-discovery? What is that?
Yeah. Like, who am I?
Who am I?
That's a hard question to ask yourself.
Yeah, it's a very deep philosophical question, which we're not going to get into in this episode. However, it is honestly, I think, something that's infinite. I think the self-discovery is something that's infinite, but let's put it in the context of salon ownership. And some of the things that are really important is asking yourself, what do I need to learn?
Yeah.
What's something that I lack in knowledge? And I think that as hairstylists, we're constantly learning, but as business owners, there's so much to learn. There's so much that we don't know.
So many hats you have to wear.
Yeah, so many hats. And you all know them. You got to be a marketer. You got to be an accountant. You got to be HR. You have to still be a hairstylist. You have to be a manager. You have to be a salon mom or salon dad, whatever the case may be. And without knowing what you need to learn, there's no way that you can create something to move forward in. You can't think for the future if you think you already know everything. You can't think for the future. And that's where we came to. Self-discovery was the number one thing that we talked about with our coach, and we were in awe of all the things that came up.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy. And it was really enlightening to be like, oh wow, like, what are some of the things I need to work on? What are the things that I need to learn? And when we started writing them down, like, there was an abundance of them, and it became a little bit overwhelming, but we were able to like break it down into small little compartments and small questions to ask yourself. to really come to know these answers.
Yeah, and that's the foundation of being a good leader is like knowing yourself. Knowing
Hmm.
yourself, knowing what you're good at also. It's not just about what you're not good at, but it's also what you are good at. Like highlight the great things. What are you confident in? What is your strong suits? What are some of one of the questions that I loved that I continue to ask some of my clients is like, what's your superpower?
Yeah.
Right? I think that that's something that we need to tap into is knowing what our superpower is and like what we're amazing at.
Hmm. Yeah, really leaning into that.
So, self discovery is one of the most important things we love talking about. We did this in our retreat where we did a whole self reflection and awareness and understanding where we are at this moment and where we'd like to be.
Hmm. Yeah, it's super important. And to get a feel of how you want your culture to be. Because when you start to ask yourself, like, how do I want to show up as a leader? And how do I want my space to feel? How do I want my team to feel? Like these are some of the questions that we ask. And honestly, it's how you kind of start to craft and visualize your salon and your business and your environment and who you want to bring into the salon.
Yeah, and also asking like how am I going to show up in this environment, right? It's like yeah, we have this expectation of how people are going to show up, but how am I going to show up? What are the support systems that I'm going to provide my team? What are the key elements of the salon that I want to improve on? What are the things that I expect out of my team? There's so many questions in the Salon Blueprint. We have an entire section that really runs you through this from self discovery to asking all those questions about who you are, where you want to be, what's lacking, what you need to bring more in. And the more that you like kind of open, I call this like a Pandora's box. The more you open up this Pandora's box, the more you get more information. And the more information you have about yourself, the more information you're going to have about your salon. Because when you're crafting a culture, it's really easy. And I think this is the mistake that we made in the beginning was without knowing who we are and what we expect and what we want out of ourselves. Also, as partners as well, if you are in a partnership, it's so important to do the self-discovery because what do you expect out of your partner? And in this partnership that you have, that was something that was very important for us because we were running around doing opposite things and also crossing over and
Yeah.
stepping on each other's toes and undermining and overmining each other. And that was a really good thing that we did was the self-discovery. But also getting back to talking about culture is what can happen is if we don't have these things in place, if we don't reflect and if we don't take the time to understand who we are, the culture creates itself.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the culture that you want. And I think that's what we experienced where we were like, we walked into the salon and we're like, this is not how I envisioned the salon to go. I did not expect to walk in on eggshells or like, the tension you can cut with a knife. And it's a good thing that salon cultures are starting to change, but there's still a lot of cultures out there. There's still a lot of salon environments that we even hear about in our city, about people not being mistreated, people not being respected, people feeling overworked, people, a lot of myriad of things that are happening in salon cultures. And it's because of a lack of leadership. It's because of a lack of self-discovery, because the leaders are unaware of how they want to show up. They're unaware of how they expect their team to relate to them. They're unaware of the values and the things that are super important to them. And this self-discovery not only helps your culture, but also helps your life. It's like if you can sort yourself out in your life, your culture of your salon will sort itself out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the enlightening thing for me was that I was putting myself on the back burner and I was only focusing on how to physically operate a salon.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it gives you a roadmap. Like it gives you almost like a manual of how we show up. Because like I will say this till I'm blue in the face. If it's not written, it's not said and it's not told. So when we don't have certain things in place, they make themselves up. And that's exactly what we came into is we didn't have a handbook. We didn't have any types of policies or procedures in place. what our culture was. So when we hired people, they just kind of started working. We didn't give them any expectations of how the culture was and what our core values were and all this sort of stuff. So when we came in, we didn't really have a culture. Do you remember when we wrote down like we just want to have like an inclusive environment where people could come and be creative and that's great, but we just started hiring whoever wanted to come and work with us. And what happens is like we were hiring for, how their Instagram looked, and we were hiring for their work behind their chair, but we weren't really hiring for do our values align? Does our culture align? Like, do these things align? And what was happening is we were getting a lot of big egos in the salon, and it really made for a shitty culture. And Sonia and I weren't really stepping into the leadership that we were supposed to, and because we had no clue. And this is where all these questions and having these policies, having these handbooks come into play. And we talk a lot about this in the Salon Blueprint. We kind of make this roadmap for you because we had no clue that these things were so important to our culture. Because once we figured out what our culture was, what our values were, how we wanted the salon to run, what our expectations were, that's when we really started to see a change in our culture. That's when we really started to see a change in our environment. And yeah, like that's one of the best things that we ever did, was really start to see what we stood for as people, what we stood for as a salon, and what we believed in, and
Yeah.
who aligns with us that can come in.
Yeah, and it also just to echo on you is like it holds people accountable.
Yes.
It's like the culture is like the energy. The culture is the energy that you hold in your salon and what the expectation is for the people that relate to each other in the salon. And this goes for your clients as well. It's not just for the people that work together, it's also in the clients that you attract to your salon. It's like knowing the kind of vibe that you want, knowing how you relate, knowing how the quality of work that you have, the expectation you have of yourself and your team is going to pour over into your guests, because you're obviously not going to put up with guests who are rude, guests who don't want to pay, guests who
I cancel all the time.
cancel all the time or disrespect your space.
Right.
You know, we used to have all those things. We used to have people walk in that we would never have them walk into today. 5 years ago was a different story when we didn't have a culture. So not only does the foundation of self-discovery help build your salon culture, but it helps build your client culture as well. And it becomes this beautiful little ecosystem that you've nurtured. And yes, it's not easy. And we're not going to say that this is an easy task. It is probably the most personally, emotionally heavy part of the course that you're going to do, because it's going to require you to dig deep if you've never gone down this road and really understand who you are, what you are, where you are, and how you want to relate. But it's going to be the foundation. It's going to be the foundation of crafting your culture and honestly creating a salon that you love and that is going to attract the right people and is going to make your hiring easier, and it's going to make everything else flow. It's going to make everything else flow together and align together. So with that being said, self-discovery is the foundation to crafting a salon culture. And in the Salon Blueprint, you're going to find 4 pillars. And the first one is self-discovery and culture. And in the coming episodes, we are going to be sharing with you guys little tidbits and teachings from the Blueprint that you guys can get a little preview on what it is that you can expect to learn. And we've actually extracted some of the teachings so that you can actually learn from this podcast and take things home with you. So hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to join the party on our social channels. And if you have any questions, you can reach out via email at hello@elevatedstylist.com. We'd love to hear from you.